Tonight, rising egg prices have Americans scrambling.
The egg prices have soared 15% in the latest U.S. inflation report.
Anything about the bird flu in quite some time. But now there's this strange strain of the bird flu infecting farms across the nation. It's causing health officials to kill at least 15 million chickens and turkeys in 20 states.
Of the 340 million layers that the U.S. requires to feed the U.S., there's less than 300 million left, with millions more dying every week.
In my short 26 years, I've lived through a few news cycles, and more than a couple of those have been related to the prices of these guys here, eggs. Especially within the last 5 years since COVID, these guys have been a real point of contention. Too many folks panic, freak out, somebody in the media, somebody in the government's telling us that we really need to be concerned about the cost of these. And to a certain extent, I agree. We really should be concerned about the price of our food and the availability of our food. So for that reason, that's where these guys here come in. In my opinion, it's kind of difficult to call yourself self-sufficient if you have the availability for chickens and you don't have them. Chickens provide a whole heck of a lot more than just eggs. They're also a wonderful source of compost. They're a phenomenal source of entertainment. They liven up your yard, and if needed, they can even serve as a meat source. Here's the kicker. Too many folks get into owning chickens because they're trying to save money on eggs. In the bed here, I've got a few things I had to get from the farm store. All this cost me about $80. All this feed will last me about a month, and doing some quick math in my head, there is very little chance that my wife and I, a family of two, are eating $80 worth of eggs. Now, the point here is not to deter you away from owning chickens, but instead to kind of consider a couple of things. Chickens in and of themselves are a completely rewarding experience to have, but you need a couple things. Number one, you gotta have the space. Without the availability of space for either a coop or to allow them to free range, it's kind of hard to have healthy, happy chickens. Number two, you gotta have the time. Chickens are pretty low maintenance, so you don't have to worry about them that whole heck of a lot, but they do require some time. Right now I'm backing my truck up to go take all those bags of feed after work on a Friday night to make sure that my girls have got food. You got to make sure that they're healthy. You got to collect the eggs. You got to store the eggs. You got to wash the eggs. You got to try to figure out a way to get rid of all these eggs because your wife started out at 8 chickens and now we've got 30. Number 3, last but not least, you got to have a place to put them, and that's going to be their coop. So here's the thing. Your local farm store, or in my area, it's the Amish, will build you a coop or sell you a pre-built coop for decent money. In my opinion, they're a little overpriced, especially those from the farm store. Those farm store coops can go from anywhere to $500 to $1,000 for a 6 to 8 bird coop. Well, what kind of sense does that make? My family's kept birds for 20 years or so. And as I've gotten into chicken keeping, looking at different plans for coops and everything else, I've noticed that people make this way more complicated than it needs to be. Chickens are relatively low maintenance to other livestock. You gotta make sure they're fed, you gotta make sure they're watered, you gotta make sure that their coop is clean. But really outside of that, you let them out in the morning, they do fine. You put them in at night, they automatically go in. They hold to a pretty solid schedule. What a lot of folks on here will make you think is that what you're doing isn't enough, what you're doing is, bad, or, a myriad of different adjectives. And what I will tell you is the important part is you want to make sure that your birds are safe, you want to make sure your birds are happy and healthy, and they'll give you eggs, they'll give you plenty of entertainment. I got some right outside the barn right now, and you'll have a really solid experience. Like anything else in life, don't get caught up with the Joneses, don't get caught up with try to make the prettiest, most awesome coop of all time, and instead remind yourself that you're building a chicken coop. With that being said, one of the requirements from my wife was that it couldn't look bad. And I think it's important too, like you want it to kind of flow. But there's 3 key things that I wanted out of my coop. Number 1, I wanted it to be big enough for me to walk in. It's kind of hard to tell on camera, but I'm 6.5 feet tall. I'm 6'6". So I don't like to have to duck and bend down. I have to do that enough. And I'm gonna build something for me. I'm gonna build it big enough for me. Number two is that this thing had to be cost effective and quality. I wanted to build this once, general upkeep and maintenance, of course, coat of paint here, fixing this, fixing that, but I didn't want to have to tear this down and completely rebuild it. Number three, I wanted the availability to expand my flock. Kind of the joke with chicken owners is that chicken math is real, and it is. We started off with 8 birds that I had split with my dad. He kept 7 of them, I took 8. After that, my wife and I bought 5 of our own from the farm store, and then we ended up getting 2 more from a family friend. Had some chickens kind of dropped off to him, and people knew that we were keeping chickens, so that's 2. And then my wife wanted another couple. I wanted a couple of buff Orpingtons. She wanted a couple more ducks. So now I have my original 8. I have 5 babies, that's 13. I have those 2 that I got, that's 15. I have 4 more in the garage, that's 19. Then I've got 6 ducks, that's 25, and 2 guinea, that's 27 birds. I went from 8 birds to 27.
Actually, since recording, we've picked up 2 more, so I have 29.
Very fast. My last and most important part that I wanted out of this coop was for it to be easy to put together. That meant that I was going to build this on an 8x8 platform. That way I could buy 8-foot 2x4s. I didn't want to make a lot of cuts any more than what I already knew I needed to. And we went from there. The other thing is I went from an 8-foot pitch to a 6-foot pitch. The 8-foot pitch meant that I could buy an 8-foot 2x4 and run an 8-foot wall in the front, not have to make many cuts, put a wall together, and then we're good. My pursuit to make this as easy as possible, I think there are some ways that I made it just a little more difficult, and actually let's go talk about those right now.
I ran into a couple of hiccups, and one of them is the seam right here. When I was putting together 8-foot 2x4s, what I was finding was that when you put a 2x4 together, because a 2x4 isn't 2 inches by 4 inches, it's 1.5 inches by 3.5 inches. When I put them together, that meant one of my sides was going to be 8 foot and 3 inches. So I have about 3 inches of space that these 4-foot sheets of plywood could not meet. Here's the other thing. This plywood was supposed to be T111 or LP Smart siding. I priced out our coop back in January, and we saved up for a couple months to be able to, build this and get it to where we wanted it to be. When I had priced out T111, it was about $200 to side the entire hen house. When I actually went to go buy it from Home Depot, it ended up about doubling in price after our president's tariffs and everything else. So we ended up going with plywood, which in this lighting on this camera, you can really see the grain. Now, overall, if I kind of back up, it's a little easier for you to tell on camera, but it doesn't look terrible. But it's not the look that I wanted. So make sure that you're giving yourself a bit of buffer when you're working on this project. The coop ended up just a little bit bigger than what we had initially planned on. And the reason for that was I was going to buy ground treated 2x4s and place regular 2x4s on the top, non-treated 2x4s. That way I didn't really have to dig into the ground or anything. My father-in-law ended up having some 6x6s that he allowed us to use instead of the ground treated 2x4s, which ended up working out great. Chickens take usually about 6 to 8 weeks to go from brooder to the coop, as long as they're fully feathered and it's warm enough outside. Problem is, I had ducks in a brooder that were getting big fast. So I ran out of time to build a door and metal this and make this look nice. And truthfully, if you work on stuff yourself, if you're a DIYer, you know that once it's good enough, it's good enough. And if it's out of sight, it's out of mind. But eventually, this is going to fold down here. I'll have a metal roof on the top here so we can come back here, get eggs, and have no problem. Underneath here, I would also like to have some storage for feed bags and that kind of stuff. In theme with running out of time, we have not yet put in our windows, and this has to be opened every day or it smells like absolute hell. So we plan on putting a window there and a window there where you can see that seam in the plywood. But yeah, give yourself plenty of time. I'll probably run some vents in there underneath the soffit, and maybe here, or potentially even a window kind of right there. I also use wood chips in here, help underneath this. You know, once a year, I'll come out and have my own free compost. However, this was filled up to the top, so this weekend I'm gonna have to get some wood chips. You can see back here, they really like to dust and lay in over here. The point number 3 of all the stuff that you'll hear online is going to be this stuff right here. Chicken wire. If you look online, you will see that people hate you for chicken wire. I can already see the comments. Chicken wire keeps chickens in, it doesn't keep predators out. What I will tell you is that I can see animal prints back here, and as I look and I check this every night when I lock the birds up, I haven't had a thing yet. I've had a couple of spots where it looks like that they're trying to get in, but if you do this correctly while you're trying to pinch a few pennies, you'll have no problems. I've used chicken wire for 20 years. I have never had an issue with raccoons getting in as long as we maintain it and keep it up well. The couple of instances we've had where raccoons have gotten in, it's because we weren't checking the chicken wire. So you got to be diligent. There's a cost associated with everything. If you don't want to check it every night, buy your cattle panels or your hardware cloth, whatever you want to call it. For me, we were balling on a budget and I went with chicken wire. One of the other things that I did was I used the metal roof. Like I said, I wanted this to be cost effective yet quality, and I didn't want to have to worry about shingling a roof or re-shingling a roof here in 20 or 30 years. One of the places that we put this was in the shade underneath trees, and this metal roof will probably outlast me. Here's a few things that I would 100% incorporate into your coop. Now, I don't love the coops that are not walk-ins. I like to be able to come in and check everything out, make sure everything's good, give everything a once over, and be able to clean it out easier. But it's really all up to your personal preference. I like to have built-in nesting boxes, at least 4 or 5 of them. That way on this back side, we will eventually be able to open that up once I do that. The next thing is, I don't have them in here, but definitely put windows in your coop. Make sure you put some windows in so you can give us some ventilation. I really don't have a choice but to free range them every day because it'll just get too darn hot in here. And in here in the coop, if you ever have that opportunity where you do not want to free range them, I'm not going to be here every day all the time. We're eventually going to go on vacation, and we vacation with family. So that means I'm asking my neighbors to come over and let out the birds if they don't have plenty of room. And in here, birds need anywhere from 4 to 5 feet of coop space and then 2 to 3 feet of hen house space for them to be comfortable. I've got enough space for about 47 birds. So we are plenty okay with the amount of space that we have in here. Plus, I get to keep my food can right in here. The last thing is you're going to want to make sure that your locking mechanism is secure. Raccoons would easily be able to push this open and get in. They're crafty. But when I have something complex like a carabiner in here, it makes it a little harder for them to get in. What I'll tell you overall is that this was a super fun experience, and every time I come out here and look at it, I've already got memories, and we just got this done, a month or so ago. So this was super fun. I definitely recommend building your own coop if you have the capability, if you got the money, because a coop like this from, the Amish, they build them here, would have cost me well into the $2,000 mark. And I got this done for about $1,200, $1,300 before my Menards rebates. After my Menards rebates, which I have about $300 worth of rebates right now, you're talking about $1,000 in on everything. Really, the point of this is to, throw a feather in your cap and have some fun building this, and have a really good time, make it your own, get the whole family involved. I had just about everybody over here helping at one point, and it was one of those memories that you'll look back on forever. When we leave this house, and it's going to be one of those things where you really want to take the coop with you, but you're just not going to be able to. All right, folks, so we've looked at the coop, we've taken a peek at it. There's a few things that you really need to pay attention to. This is less of a how-to build a chicken coop and more of things to consider, because I don't really want to tell you how to build yours. The original plans for ours, if you've watched this video, I'm assuming you have watched the ultimate chicken coop video from, I want to say it's like Mid-Coast Craftman or something like that. Really great video, and what I initially wanted to do, but we just ended up going a different route. And I'm super happy with how this turned out. My wife loves it, I love it, and I'm sure my YouTube comments will have a different story. Pay attention to a couple things here, guys. Number one, you got to make sure the chickens are right for you. One of the things that I hate is seeing the people that ended up going and buying Tractor Supply chicks. They bought Family Farm and Home chicks. They ordered chicks online. And maybe it's about Easter time. They wanted some pictures and they say, you know what, I just don't want these. And that's just unfair to the animal.
Hey guys, this is Future Bobby, and unfortunately I yapped for a solid 2 or 3 more minutes before I realized that my camera had died right where I had cut off. So here's a little footage of me clearing the plot and putting kind of the beginning pieces of the coop together. I do not like it when folks end up getting birds and they decide that they're just not for them, and I think it's unfair to the animal. However, it can be advantageous to those of us that do like chickens. I've actually gotten a few birds for either free or for cheap, and actually the original 8 of my flock was from somebody who ended up just not wanting the birds that they got with the coop that they had bought. So it's not all bad. But to stop you from being one of those people that ends up just giving away these birds and devoting a bunch of time and money and energy into these animals, make sure that these animals are right for you. And if you want a video on that, I can definitely do that to talk about the pros and cons of owning chickens. Kind of a 1B to this, and this is somewhat of a joke but somewhat real, is make sure that this kind of shift in your lifestyle is right for you. You know, my wife has had a blast with the chickens, and it's actually led us on a path to be a lot more self-sufficient. We have a garden, and we make a lot of our own, food, condiments, all that kind of stuff, things that we never would have considered before. And there is going to be somewhat of a lifestyle shift when this happens, so just make sure that you're open to that. When you're building your coop, my second point is going to be to make sure that you stick to your plan, stick to your budget, because it can get out of hand fast. Especially if you're like me and you're on YouTube looking for ideas, looking for this, looking for that, it will get out of hand. It might sound like I'm beating a dead horse with number 3, but I need you to understand before you do this that you are not going to save money by owning chickens. It is much cheaper to buy a dozen eggs over the course of your lifetime than it is to own chickens. But the point of owning chickens and having your own food like this is not to save money, it's to have a connection to your food and where it comes from. Nothing more rewarding than an omelet or eggs or a cake from chickens that came out of your backyard. There's nothing more rewarding than sharing those eggs with the people that you love, your neighbors, maybe selling them for a couple bucks to your community. Like, that's the point of this. The point isn't to save money. That is the point. I have a whole nother video kind of planned for this, talking about, kind of the status of the world or whatever and the importance of doing everything we're doing. So I'm not going to get into that today, but understand that that is why we're doing this. Point 3B, and probably my final point, is this. Don't keep up with the Joneses. I've also beat this horse pretty hard, but you're going to want to. You're going to want to feel like you need to create this beautiful coop that looks like it's straight out of Better Farms and Gardens, if that's even a magazine. If it's not, we really should do that. I called dibs on the trademark on that. But you don't need to create the most beautiful looking coop, the this, the that, the heated waters or anything else. You need to start. You need to get some birds in your backyard, and then it will get there. Right? And this has all been kind of a different end than what I'm used to, but I do want to talk to you guys a little bit about that. So when we got done with the coop, or I guess when we were working on the coop, we had just done the doors, and I did a YouTube video on that, and then we built the coop and bought some birds and got into the garden, and I felt myself, I was like, okay, I need to do something else. I gotta work on another project. I gotta have something on my docket. And I didn't really understand why. And I've always thought that it's just, I need that momentum. I need to be busy. But then I asked myself, why do I need to be busy? And I kind of did some reflection. And I found that busyness to me stops me and distracts me from actually confronting things that I need to work through. This time, when we were doing the chicken coop and everything, I was kind of going through some stuff. I was in a rockier place in my faith and was using this as a distraction and avoidance of, actually digging into my Bible, going to church, asking questions, talking to people, and working through that. And that's not what we're supposed to do. When we do that, guys, what we're actually doing is worshiping something different than what we should be in, Jesus Christ. What I was really struggling with was where I am versus where I want to be. And bringing this back home, where I want to be in 10 years and my family to be in 10 years is going to take some work and take some time. But I have to do that one step at a time and enjoy the process in doing so. Otherwise, getting there is just a struggle. And unfortunately, those goalposts always move. This all came from comparing material possessions, houses and toys and land and trucks and whatever else, of the things that I had compared to the nicer stuff that other people had. And number one, none of that matters. Number two, when you do that, you actually rob yourself from enjoying the things that you have been blessed with. And that's not okay. What we should do instead is to set ourselves some goals on where we want to be, and then work towards them, be diligent in working towards them, and praying for them, making sure that that matches what, God's walk for you is supposed to be. I want to thank you guys for a couple of things. Number one, we're almost to 100 subscribers. I think we're about 15 short. So if you have liked this video, go ahead and drop a subscription. It would be amazing to see us get over 3 digits. Number two, one of our videos just crossed over 3,500 views, and I'll link that above. It's the miter saw review video. And for 3,500 people to sit down and watch me talk about a tool is amazing. So thank you guys to all who have watched and liked and shared. If you do like what you see, consider subscribing, like I said, on the left here. And if you did like this video, I think you'll like this one here on the right. Go ahead and watch that too. Thank you guys for sticking around and watching, listening to me talk. I do appreciate you. God bless you, and we'll see you in the next one.